I'm Dr. Dean Lomax, and I have one of the greatest jobs in the entire world. I'm a paleontologist. And an important part of my job is to help spread the word about how cool and fascinating paleontology is through education and science communication. I've teamed up with Kinder as part of its first ever Masters of Play festival to promote learning through fun. A paleo-themed adventure game called Paleo Kid, and Kinder have been kind enough to send me these cool little dinosaur figures, including a Velociraptor with feathers. Without further ado, I'm going to answer some of your top requested dino-themed questions. I've been fascinated by dinosaurs, paleontology, and the natural world for as long as I can remember. In fact, I was one of those really annoying children, you know the ones, asking people, what's your favourite dinosaur, and telling them all sorts of unusual dinosaur facts. I guess all that experience came in really handy though, right? Because, I get to do this as a job today. But in reality, the reason why I wanted to become a paleontologist is because all these fossils that have been found from millions upon millions of years ago, it was so cool how we could study them and work out that these animals were once living on our planet, on planet Earth, where we live today. That was so inspiring. But somebody else who really inspired me to want to become a paleontologist was somebody called Mary Anning. Now, Mary Anning was a late Georgian, early Victorian paleontologist who lived in the coastal town of Lyme Regis in Dorset in England. And I remember reading about her story from books, and she was just a little girl who made some remarkable discoveries. She found the first ichthyosaurs and plesiosaurs, these types of extinct marine reptiles that lived in the sea whilst dinosaurs were walking on land. She also found the first British pterosaur as well, among many other fossils, and these were the first things brought to the attention of science. And yet she came from a very unusual background, and her story is so inspiring that it made me want to go out there, become a paleontologist, and nowadays I even get the chance to study her fossils. I really do have one of the coolest jobs in the world. I get to live out my childhood dream of being a real-life dinosaur hunter, a paleontologist. But my job isn't, standard. It can be really varied. So I might be traveling around the world digging up dinosaurs or other fossils, or I could be in museum collections going through thousands upon thousands of fossils, examining them and studying them very carefully. Or I might be writing up my results for scientific papers, doing research and identifying and naming new species to science. As part of that, I also write books for children and for adults as well about my discoveries and about paleontology in general. But perhaps most importantly, I share my passion for the past through social media, through media platforms like TV and radio, so that the public can understand how important paleontology is. Aha, okay. The most interesting dino fact I have for you without a doubt is that dinosaurs are not extinct. Let me repeat that. Dinosaurs are not extinct. Birds, from an ostrich to an emu to a robin to an owl to a penguin, birds are dinosaurs. Let that sink in. Birds are dinosaurs. We know this because by looking at the fossils, retracing the footsteps of dinosaurs through time, we can work out that birds are nestled within the group, which includes Velociraptor and TRex, this big group of dinosaurs called theropods. But more specifically, they belong to a wider group, which paleontologists call Maniraptora. And within this wider group, Maniraptora, that also includes Velociraptor and its close relatives as well. And nestled right within there are the entire group of today's more than 10,000 living species of birds. Birds are living theropod dinosaurs. Sorry. A fight between T-Rex and Velociraptor. Well, the scientist in me has to say that this would never ever have happened because, well, T-Rex and Velociraptor lived at least 10 million years apart and on different continents. But if a hypothetical battle did happen, first of all, to make it a little bit scientifically accurate, we need to get rid of this oversized raptor. and replace it with a tiny one, which, because Velociraptor in reality was about the size of a turkey. Yeah, a turkey. But Velociraptor did have a deadly weapon, and that was this awesome claw, sickle-shaped claw that was used for slashing prey. But even still, comparing Velociraptor to the mighty T-Rex, with its bone-crunching bite, with banana-sized teeth and enormous size, even a pack of Velociraptors, but no way would they take this beastie down. So, T-Rex remains top dino. It's no secret that T-Rex has tiny arms that are disproportionate to the size of its body. And it's one of those questions that paleontologists have been debating for years upon years as to why are these arms so tiny? Well, the leading theory really is that T-Rex kind of sacrificed the size of its arms in order to have this massive, gigantic skull that was used to do all the killing and the biting, etc. But its little arms with the sharp claws were used during close combat to slash at and hold on to its prey. The very first dinosaur bones that were brought to the attention of science were found in deep underground mines in the village of Stonesfield in Oxfordshire, England, and that included bones like this one. This is an exact replica of an original jawbone from this animal, which you can see it's got this big tooth here, and these teeth are serrated as well, so we know it's from a predator meat-eating dinosaur. But this was named as the very first dinosaur anywhere in the world and described in 1824 by a geologist called William Buckland. He named it Megalosaurus, meaning the great lizard. I've had the privilege to find and help to excavate many different types of dinosaurs, but by far the biggest are the plant-munching machines, the sauropod dinosaurs, those with a really long neck and a long tail. Perhaps the most famous example would be Dippy the Diplodocus. Well, on digs in Wyoming in America, I worked at a museum called the Wyoming Dinosaur Center. Whilst excavating in their Jurassic rocks, which are roughly about 150 million years old, we found dinosaurs like Diplodocus, another one called Camarasaurus, and another called Apatosaurus, and these animals were truly gigantic, twice as long as a school bus. So these plant munchers, at least the really, really big ones, were the biggest, most gigantic animals ever to walk on the planet. Ooh, let me answer that with two examples. The first one, let's go back to 2009. When I was 19 years old, I was part of an excavation team in Montana, USA, that were digging up a bone bed. So lots of different bones were found together. And as part of this bone bed, we found parts of a dinosaur called Gorgosaurus. That is a close relative of Tyrannosaurus rex, but it lived a little bit earlier, about 75 million years ago. What we found, though, was a piece of jaw, which was about this big, with teeth still preserved in it. It was a breathtaking moment, and I was inspired by it. It was incredible. Now, the next example, in a museum setting, so something a bit different, is that as part of my scientific research of going into museums, I began working with my hometown museum of Doncaster Museum and Art Gallery. Whilst going through the collections, I came across one specimen that's thought to be a plaster copy, that it wasn't real, it thought to be a replica. As it turns out, I identified it as the real deal. And after years of research, teaming up with a colleague of mine called Professor Judy Massere from New York in the USA, we determined that this animal was a new species to science, which we called Ichthyosaurus anningae, which we named after Mary Anning, my childhood hero. Now, ichthyosaurs are an extinct type of marine reptile that look a bit like a dolphin or shark, which, in fact, I have one on my t-shirt. This is what they look like. They're not dolphins, they're not sharks, they are extinct marine reptiles. They were swimming in the seas whilst dinosaurs were walking on land. The Earth is more than 4.5 billion years old. In order to work out where the dinosaurs fit into Earth's past, we have to place them into a geological timeline. The very first dinosaurs that we know lived about 230 million years ago in the Triassic period. Then we know that dinosaurs lived in the next period, known as the Jurassic, and then all of the dinosaurs, except for the birds, went extinct in the Cretaceous period. Together, the Triassic, the Jurassic, and the Cretaceous periods make up a time known as the Mesozoic era. So now we have the Mesozoic era, paleontologists know that we can look for rocks from the Mesozoic and we probably will find dinosaurs. However, it's not that simple because rocks of these ages vary so dramatically. We might have some rocks that are, for example, from a marine environment. So we would never find, well, never say never, but we probably wouldn't find dinosaurs there because dinosaurs were living on land. That's where they lived. They were land-based animals. So we have to look in rocks that we know are of land origin, and of course then we potentially will find a dinosaur. The thing is, it's not so simple as well because of course it takes a lot of time. It can take years and years and years until we even find a scrap of bone. But let me give you an example using my favourite dinosaur, Baryonyx. So to place this into context, so Baryonyx was found in Surrey in England, at least the first one was. And by looking at the geology, by studying the research papers that have been reported on the find of Baryonyx, and working out the specifics, we know that Baryonyx comes from a particular type of rock and specific rock formation that is roughly about 125 and 130 million years old, and that's as part of the Cretaceous period. And later discoveries, more recent finds of Baryonyx on the Isle of Wight in England have also found similar dinosaur remains of Baryonyx in the same similar types of rocks. And those rocks are also around about 125 to 130 million years old. Oh, you're going to put me on the spot with this one, but okay, my favourite dinosaur of all time is the mighty Baryonyx. Now, Baryonyx was discovered in January 1983 by a fossil collector called William Walker. William was walking in this quarry in Surrey, England, when he picked up this enormous claw. Now, he wasn't sure what he'd discovered, so he contacted the Natural History Museum in London, and they sent a team to excavate the remains. As it turned out, they discovered an almost complete skeleton, a remarkable find. Now, Baryonyx represents the biggest meat-eating dinosaur ever found in all of Europe. It's as long as a school bus nearly, and even more spectacularly, preserved between its ribs was its last meal of fish and a small dinosaur. What a cool animal.
Thanks for all the great questions. I hope you enjoyed hearing my answers. Head to the Kinder website to find out more about the Masters of Play Festival. There are fun workshops, challenges, and downloadable worksheets for you and your children to enjoy, including my very own fossil hunting tips and a dinosaur tracking challenge.